Let's move to Newcastle. Reports came out this morning that Newcastle are leaning towards building a new stadium next to St. James's Park. Do you think that is going to be the solution, and what are your thoughts on that?
You know, it's a fascinating situation that's cropped up this morning about how they're going to try and not use so much green space in the Leazes Park area and try and build on some of the existing space of the stadium they have. That throws up all sorts of issues, though, about having to play a season with building works going on around the stadium. Personally, I think they're going to go back to just increasing the size of St James's Park, no matter how tempting a new stadium is, and at a cost of 1.2 billion, I think it may just prove to be a little bit too rich. It would have to be a really big statement that PIF and the Saudi group want to make for that to happen. I do believe that it makes more sense to try and rebuild part of that stadium at the Gallagher end and increase capacity slightly in St James's Park. The cost is going to be a lot less, disruption is going to be a lot less. So I think that's where it's going to end up. But believe me, I've seen PIF make, as we've seen in Saudi, there have been big statements made before, and 1.2 billion for a new project is not out of the realms of their ability. So let's wait and see. But I still think that's where it's going to end up, is with an improved St James's Park, which is not the worst option for football heritage from my point of view.
And when could we see maybe movement made on those, reinforcements to St. James's Park? Is that going to happen in the next couple of years, or are we still a long ways away?
No, I think we're going to see that a little bit sooner rather than later. I think they've got to try and get that revenue increased. They've got to show that they're moving forward. That option's much easier to execute, and I think that could be getting sort of finished around about the 28th season. So I think if we're going to build a new stadium, you're looking about 30-31. So probably a 3-year difference, and that's also important. And you've got to take into account if you have extra 3 years of revenue, as opposed to spending 1.2 billion on a new stadium with big disruption. The overall cost is not just what it costs to build the stadium; it's also what you lose in terms of ticket revenue and other deals as well. So they've got to take all that into account, which I know they'll be doing. What does impress me, though, is always I've been involved in about 5 or 6 different stadium projects. And the vision and the intelligence of the architects never ceases to amaze me. And some of these things that they're offering are really tempting, and they look great visions. And that will be tempting to a lot of fans to think about a big new beginning and a really wonderful new stadium. But I think there's a lot to be said for St James's Park and its history and its heritage. And if they can improve that, then I think that could be the right option.
Well, on the PSR side of things for Newcastle, this window went quite well for them, selling Lloyd Kelly to Juventus, well, on loan at least, with a £20 million obligation to buy. Big profit for Newcastle after signing him for free. I mean, they must be excited about this for next year's transfer kitty.
Yeah, look, they need it. I mean, we could see that they were stymied pretty much in this window, and you know that Eddie Howe was desperate to bring people in, but in the end he had to wait for disposals. And so this was a good one to get, the 20 million, as you're right, and that's a big number for them. But it's where they've been successful in trading recently. They've admitted they've got to improve their trading and their net spend. They're really trying to pay back a lot of that splurge in spending initially. They're still paying it back. That's why they're so tight on PSR. So they're managing to conjure up some of these deals, and Paul Mitchell deserves credit for doing that. They've got to keep going, but trading has got to be the way for Newcastle right now to give them some real breathing space in the summer for a real improvement of the squad.
And were you surprised by being able to get £8 million from Miguel Almiron from Atlanta United? That seems like a pretty good, deal to get done for somebody who really had been out of the plans, and we've seen other clubs really struggle to sell in this window.
Yeah, look, I don't think they really wanted to let him go. He became a bit of a fan favourite at St James's Park. I particularly liked his play personally. I did watch him when he was at Atlanta previously, and so there's obviously a bit of a history there with him. I think in the MLS, I think he's very well thought of over there. So he probably has a little bit more of a value than a normal player coming in due to his history. And so look, I think he'll be welcomed back really well for Atlanta. I think he's a great little player. I really like him. I'm one of his fans. And so I think that was a good number, but it suited both parties for lots of reasons, I think, as well as for the player as well.
And we spoke a bit about the Deloitte Football Money League last week. They showed that Newcastle recorded commercial income of £76 million in 2024, far and away the most of any non-Big Six side. What does this mean for kind of the club's PSR situation and building towards reaching that Big Six, becoming a Big Seven? Because I feel like when they got taken over by PIF, we kept saying they'll become the Big Seven. We haven't really gotten them there yet, but I feel like commercial side is almost as important as anything else.
It is, and although there's been some growth, they've really got, I'm afraid, they've got to double it from where they are right now. That's what they've got to do, is build that commercial growth. That's where the leeway is. And we've been saying for the last few weeks that the PIF have got to assist Newcastle in terms of introductions into those companies that the PIF have stakes in globally, some of the biggest companies in the world. And there's got to be better deals in terms of local sponsors within Saudi for Newcastle. Newcastle have got to go down there. They've got to start building academies down there. They've got to start doing all sorts of things on an international basis with the help of PIF. But that commercial revenue, while it's obviously a very healthy increase, it should be doubled or even tripled if they're going to try and make it to where they need to be.